Hello, everybody. Welcome back to High Ground. My name is Tanner, and today we're going over the final day of Swiss at the Copenhagen Major. So this will complete the setup for phase number 3 for the actual playoffs. This is, I guess, also called playoffs, but the final bracket, all best of threes into that best of 5 grand final. So the quarters, the semis, and the grand final. Okay, so only 3 matches to talk about today, all best of threes. So let's talk about them. Scars beat SSG 2-1. A little bit tragic. SSG got blessed at the end of things. They got to play both of the APAC teams back to back. And I mean, I don't know. Scars, I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag for them. I think people were underrating them just because APAC was so bad in phase 1. Everyone assumed that APAC would be garbage in phase 2, all 2 of their teams that were already here. And Damwon honestly wasn't great. Maybe they'll come back a little bit stronger. Maybe Harper and maybe even Soldier aren't the right fits. I don't know what the case was with them, but Scars have been decent, but also they got crushed by W7M. They barely beat Revan. They crushed Damwon, so the other APAC team there, and then they sort of got crushed by NIP, and then they won a close-ish series against SSG. It went all 3 maps, but they still did win both of the maps that they ended up winning 7-4. Really, really swingy day in general, and this match being no exception, particularly this one and the second one. It's a 3-3 half in both of the first 2 maps, and then after a 3-3 half in the first map, SSG wins 4 rounds in a row to close out the map 7-3. In the second map, SSG gets the 7th round again, but then Scars get the next 4 rounds in a row of their own to win that map 7-4, and then they get the first 5 rounds on Villa, which is the 3rd map, so that's 9 rounds in a row. It's not often you see in a series 9 rounds in a row won by one team. And then SSG finally gets 1 to make it a 5-1 half, and they trade a little bit back and forth. It looks like maybe SSG can make the comeback, send it to overtime, but no, Scars closes out 7-4, sends SSG home, and leaving only one APAC team alive in the tournament, and only one NA team alive in the tournament as well, that being, of course, Scars, who just won, and then Sonics, who qualified the day before. Eminem versus VP, also super swingy. Eminem 7-0'd them on Chalet. I mean, I guess this really just came down to Virtus Pro's map pool coming back to bite them. They have a relatively small map pool compared to a lot of the other quote-unquote top teams. Eminem plays a lot of maps, and they especially like Chalet. They played it something like 20 times in T1 play, and they've won it, I think, 19 of the 20 times. They have a 95% win rate, which is like an insane win rate. Maybe some teams have a 100% win rate on a map that they played a handful of times, but they played it like 20 times. Like, it's just insane. You do not take them there. Virtus Pro just thought they were the better team, or they were forced to go there because they hate other maps. I don't know. And then Eminem also did quite well on Villa, so they got 7 in a row on Chalet, and then the first 3 rounds of Villa. They won 10 rounds in a row, one-upping what Scars did to SSG, winning 9 rounds in a row. And Virtus Pro almost brings it back. They bring it to 5-6, so if they won one more round there, they could have sent it to overtime, but not quite. It was a 2-0 for Eminem, and I think both of those kind of upsets. Of course, I did predict the other team, so my bad. We'll talk about my predictions in just one second. Let's talk about Liquid versus Wolves first. I think this one pretty well expected. It probably was it was the closest match of the day from, depending on how you look at it. Of course, SSG did get 1 map. This was the only 3-map series, but both of these maps were closer than any of the maps in the SSG Scars series. And I mean, SSG, it just sort of looked like they choked it, right? And it's not like they were really, really close to winning the second map. They won the first one pretty decisively, and then they had a lead on the second map, 4-3, and then lost 4 in a row. So, I mean, it's not like they choked a massive lead, but still a lead nonetheless. And then they got run away on the last map. And honestly, if they won one more round in the first half, maybe they could have pushed overtime, but going down 1-5 was just too brutal. They couldn't come back from them. From that deficit. And so anyways, I mean, I think the Wolves Liquid game looked kind of closer. I don't know. Again, let me know what you guys think about that. 7-5, 7-5 score lines. So Liquid, it's a 2-0, no overtime, but still Wolves were, they put up a decent fight, I think, especially Mowgli. I got only 1 out of 3 on the day. Not great. I guess I could have picked the underdog in one of these cases. Honestly, I feel like I could have done a lot better with my predictions. I only went with a few underdog picks throughout the whole thing. If I looked at their actual in-depth histories and particularly their map pools, all of the teams, I probably would have got more right. But, I just sort of did this for fun. I think I ended up with 18 of the 33 matches. So there's 8 here, 8 here, 8 here. That's 24, and then 6 games here and 3 games here. So 33 games. 18 out of those 33 is about 55%. Honestly, not great. a lot of them being best of ones, you know, it's just really swingy. It could go either way, and some of them were super close. You know, I got this one wrong going around 15. I guess I got this one right going around 15. I got this one wrong, and it was almost, you know, almost like triple max OT, double max OT, and a max regulation. A lot of really close ones that I didn't call quite right. This one I definitely trolled a little bit. This one I had a feeling about and I didn't do. But anyways, you know, just sort of excuses. Doesn't really matter. If you got above like 60%, you're probably feeling pretty good. There were some upsets, but there were also some like gimmies, I guess, here. A decent number, but maybe not like an overwhelming number. Yeah, I guess that does it for this bracket. That of course qualifies these 3 teams in addition to the 5 that already qualified. So let's look at the final bracket. So here we have the 4 initial matchups: FaZe versus Scars, W7M versus M&M, G2 versus Liquid, and Sonics versus NIP. You'll notice that there are 4 Brazilian teams and none of them play against each other, and there are 2 EU teams and they're both on the opposite side of the bracket from each other, and the other 2 being APAC and NA. Also on opposite side of the brackets, but you know, whatever, there's only one of each of those. Weirdly, the 2 teams that went 3-0 are on the same side of the bracket. FaZe and W7M both went 3-0 in Swiss, and they're playing both against teams that went 3-2. So as far as seeding goes, that makes sense. But that also means that all 3 of the teams that went 3-1 are on the same side of the bracket as each other. So Liquid went 3-2, but G2, Sonics, and NIP all went 3-1. So it almost looks manufactured in that they set up that it's, you know, it's all Brazilian teams versus non-Brazilian teams. So this makes it more likely to have Brazil versus Brazil later rather than early. You know, if they just put like FaZe versus W7M and Liquid versus NIP, obviously that would definitely be knocking out some Brazilian teams. But and then also having the EU teams on the upset side of the bracket. But if they just switch like these 2 matchups, then the 3-0 teams wouldn't have been on the same side of the bracket, and it still would be EU on opposite sides, and you know, none of the matchups would change. Yeah, so I really don't know why they set it up this way, but this is what they went with through some method. I don't know if it was like random or semi-random or whatever they did. But anyways, let's talk about the actual matchups. FaZe versus Scars feels like the easiest one to call, probably. Scars, you know, they've had a good run. Maybe they had a few easy wins, and maybe SSG choked versus them, whatever you want to say. They've played like fairly good Siege, but it just really feels like they're probably not up to par with the rest of the teams here, and especially a team like FaZe that has you know, yet to lose, right? I believe weren't they first seed? No, sorry, they didn't play in phase 1. They were first seed, sorry, out of Brazil, and so they didn't play in phase number 1. And then they won 3 best of 1. So I guess Scars has played more maps at this event because they went 3-2, so they had to win a few. They had to win a few best of 3s, right? Whereas FaZe just won 3 best of 1s to get here. But yeah, easy FaZe pick. I mean, if you're gonna do like a lock-in pick, it probably would be this one. This would be an even bigger upset than when Scars just beat SSG. W7M versus M&M feels like a tough one. Probably the end of the line for M&M, but I guess not the first time we've said that. M&M have played more maps by far than any other team in this event. They played 15, and the second most is like SSG and Wolves, who have played 10. Both of them were also in phase number 1. And M&M, they lost their first matchup, and so they had to win 2 best of 3s back to back to get to phase 2, and then they lost their first 2 matchups in Swiss, and so they had to play 3 best of 3. They had to win 3 best of 3s back to back to back to make it here. So I mean, they haven't yet faltered in a best of 3, I guess, and they haven't yet faltered with their backs against the wall, even if it was kind of scary at sometimes. W7M, on the other hand, have only played. They played 5 best of 1s. They were also in phase number 1 when they went 2-0 there, and then they went 3-0 in Swiss. So they've yet to lose. I guess they had, you know, a scare versus Sonics, won all 15 rounds. It went max regulation versus Liquid, but still, you know, 5-0 is 5-0. I guess I'm going to give it to W7M. Just everything suggests them, except for the fact that M&M, well, a lot more momentum and experience at this particular event. But, you know, just W7M seemed like a higher caliber team. So, I don't know. M&M, they kind of look like the main characters, so maybe they'll continue the run, but I'm going to go W7M there. G2 versus Liquid, this is a rematch from the Swiss. It was a 7-3 win in favor of G2 on border. That was, of course, the best of 1. This is now a best of 3. So, you know, we'll see what We'll see what's going to happen in the rematch. I'm going to go with G2 here. I mean, partially because I don't just want to pick a bunch of Brazilian teams, and also partially because, I mean, I think they're going to win, right? Just based on what we saw in phase number one. G2 was the better team in their matchup and overall, going 3-1 versus Liquid's 3-2. Although Liquid in their best of threes, they look pretty solid. They 2-0'd Wolves, even if they were close-ish maps, and they crushed Dark Zero. So I'm going to go with G2, but it could go Liquid's way. And then Sonics versus NIP. I think a little bit of a sleeper matchup, and maybe not even that much so. Probably these two matchups look more exciting than these two. I don't know, maybe you like this one, but whatever. I think NIP just has been slept on a little bit through this tournament. Some people are recognizing that it might be their time again. Sometimes NIP is really hot, and sometimes they are really not. And it looks like, this is one of the times they're really hot, so we'll see. But I am going to go with Sonics. They've been obviously better in this event than, well, I mean, maybe not that much better. Better in phase one, certainly. Sonics was the first seed out of their group, whereas NIP was second seed out of their group, falling to 6 Karma and then winning 2 best of threes. Sonics first seed out of their group, and then they went 3-1. NIP also went 3-1, but I'd say Sonics' performance just more impressive overall. They faltered a little bit less, and I guess, well, NIP, as a result of faltering to 6 Karma in that first one, has got a little bit more experience at the event because they got to play more best of threes, an actual best of threes. Sonics has not played any best of threes because they haven't played an elimination game up to this point. So yeah, I'm gonna go Sonics, but again, this could go NIP's way. So I don't know if I'll actually make any videos until the event ends. So I'm just gonna do the full predictions now. Obviously, if I miss any of the first ones, that kind of messes up the other predictions, but it is what it is. FaZe versus W7M would be here, and I think a lot of people are saying W7M might not go that far. They made some roster changes, and I guess a lot of these teams actually made some roster changes. But maybe W7M just isn't the world beaters that they were last year because they lost some of their players. But I mean, they look really good in this event. I guess FaZe, the top seed out of Brazil versus the third seed out of Brazil being W7M. Like, I don't know, there's a lot of factors there, but I'm still going to go with W7M. Just historically, I guess they've been the better team. There was a time, about a year ago or so, when FaZe was playing at the Berlin Major, that they were close to, if not just the best team in the world, I guess you'd say, internationally, because they won a major in the previous year. They were in another grand final then, and especially if they won, how long. It's been such a long time since a team won 2 events, and those wouldn't have been back-to-back, but still 2 events nonetheless in the course of about a year. Yeah, all of this to say that I'm still going to go W7M, but like any of these matches could go to either team. That's what I'm going to rock with there. G2 versus Sonics. These guys haven't played each other in a while. The last time, and I think the only time that they played against each other, was in groups at Berlin. So it was a 2-0 in favor of G2. They played 2 best of ones. G2 won both of them. The teams have changed up, and most notably, Citizen went from G2 to Sonics. So a little bit of a grudge match there. G2, they got rid of Citizen. They picked up Benja. They won SI, and Sonics really underperformed at SI after getting top 4 without Citizen at the Jönköping Major just before that. So we'll see. I mean, if Sonics make it back to top 4, then maybe the Citizen pickup wasn't so bad. It's looked pretty good, honestly, except for the group stage of NAL. I'm going to go with Sonics there. I mean, that's just what I'm going to pick. Maybe G2 are the favorites, but I'm going with Sonics. And that sets up Sonics versus W7M, a rematch of one of the Swiss games. It was an 8-7 win in favor of W7M. So if that best of 5 can be as close as their best of 1 was, that'll be very, very exciting. And, maybe you call it bias or whatever. I'm going to go with Sonics. I think it would be a really great storyline seeing them, their 5-man roster, finally live up to its potential, come to fruition. And, Citizen, I think if he keeps up the performance he's had in this event thus far, probably will be the event MVP. We'll see. Maybe if somebody else popped off in that situation in the finals, it could change up. But he's been really good. But honestly, everyone on Sonics has been really good. Same thing with W7M. But I'm gonna go with Sonics, and maybe just because that's what I want to happen. But okay, that's what I'm going with. So going down the line, I have FaZe beating Scars, W7M beating M&M, G2 beating Liquid, Sonics beating NIP, of course, all the teams on the top, and then I have W7M beating FaZe here, Sonics beating G2 here, and finally Sonics beating W7M in the grand final. It'd be cool if all of this happened. We'll see. We might just actually get a Brazil versus Brazil grand final, which I think will be a little bit lame. Not the first time we've seen it, but it's been a while at least, I guess. Yeah, that's going to do it for me. So if you have your own predictions, feel free to leave them below. Any other comment as well. A like, a subscription would also be appreciated. And with all of that being said, I will catch you guys in the next video.